All right, Brock Purdy, George Kittle, James Bradberry, Darius Slay, plenty of stars on display in this one. Let's talk about what's going to happen. So let's get into this chart. What I'm going to talk about in this video is going to be the 49ers offense, how they will attack the Eagles defense, and will it be enough to get the victory. I already made a video on the other side of the ball, but this one I'll give my final predictions of who's going to win at the end, so stay tuned for that. First, let's just talk about what you see on the screen. This is where each team ranked in specific positional categories according to Pro Football Focus. So the 49ers, 14th passing attack. This is with 3 different quarterbacks out there, obviously, Purdy, Lance, and Garoppolo. But number 1 in receiving, going up against the 5th best coverage unit, though. So you got good on good, really great on great there. And same thing with the offensive and defensive line. This is an all-time great offensive and defensive line matchup on both sides of the ball here, with the Eagles' offensive and defensive lines and the Niners' offensive and defensive lines. Like I always say, when something like this happens, this tends to favor the offense, as typically a good offensive lineman can, hold their own against a good defensive lineman. That's typically how it works. Although, again, Mike McGlinchey, that's kind of maybe their weakness. Stay away from Trent Williams. Eagles have tons of pass rushers that constantly go in and out, constantly stay healthy. Maybe that's the way you attack them. But still, McGlinchey's, I think, played well, so it's not a guarantee that you're going to get to him. Running game, 49ers haven't run blocked as well as they pass block, but still top 10. And then again, it's less about the running backs in the Shanahan scheme. We all know that. The Eagles' run defense is maybe not as good as you would think. You can run the ball against them. In fact, their EPA is bad. Like, their EPA given up through the rush, which is estimated points added, good stat to look at, is not performed well. Part of that is scheme, but still a mediocre graded unit as well. Maybe that's a way the Niners could attack them. So let's start off with this play. One of the things that the Eagles do so well, part of why the Eagles are here in the conference championship, is because of this exact thing, where it's going to be a man coverage play. It's Michael Gallup versus James Bradberry one-on-one. It's a fade route. And the reality is, what the Eagles did when they added James Bradberry is basically said, you're not just going to straight up beat us on the outside. That's just not something you're going to be able to do. Watch as Prescott takes a snap, and Gallup appears to be in pretty good position. Like, I can see why Prescott makes this throw. But watch as Bradberry comes back so well and is able to play the receiver so effectively to basically guarantee Gallup wasn't making that grab. Even if it was a perfect throw, which I think the throw was a bit high, but only a little bit. And also, that's where you want to put the ball on a fade route, throw it too high instead of too low. But still, I think even if it was a bit lower, Bradberry was ready to knock the hands away, knock the ball away. That was not going to be a catch. This is what Bradberry and Slay do so well on the outside, but as 49ers fans are probably already thinking in their head, this isn't really what San Francisco does. They don't just say, hey, go Deebo Samuel, go win on the outside in a fade route. That's not really how they play, which might actually be advantage San Francisco. A lot of what the ways you can potentially beat the Eagles is stuff like this, where the Eagles, they will play a decent amount of zone coverage, a lot of cover 4, but I'm expecting more cover 3 in this one, as again, Niners love to run the ball, so putting a safety in makes a little bit more sense to me, especially when, they do give up yards through the ground. What you can do is, if you're the Cowboys on this play, what they're doing is they're running a zone buster, basically having 2 receivers get into the deep left-hand side of the offense for them. There's a corner there, but a corner can't cover both of those guys, and whoever he doesn't cover, you hit the other guy. That's kind of the strategy here. Look at how when this play begins, you have a point right here where there is a window to make this throw, and again, doing this type of stuff is exactly what San Francisco loves to do. As you see, Prescott's going to make this throw. Lamb's able to make the grab, even makes a move and gets into the end zone for a touchdown. Great stuff by Prescott. Great stuff by the Cowboys for sure. This is stuff San Francisco can do as well. Now, I want to be very clear here. It's not like the Eagles are constantly giving up these big plays in these situations. They have at times, as you see on the screen. I'm not trying to say that this is big weakness the Eagles have. The Eagles have no big weakness. They just don't. But this is maybe a way you can beat them, which is good news for the 49ers, as that's how they try and beat teams. Like this play, for example, it's kind of a simpler 49ers play. There's more complex ones I could go with. But again, against zone coverage, just having Brandon Ayuk try to get into a gap in coverage. Watch as Purdy takes the snap. He's going to look down the field, and you see there is a gap in coverage right here. So For a team that, for the Eagles, they're so good on the outside, maybe the strategy is don't try to win on the outside as much. Try to win inside the numbers, which is actually where the 49ers tend to try and win. As you see, Purdy is able to make that throw. This is where the 49ers are very good, and I think that Purdy will be able to do that stuff relatively consistently. I don't think the windows are going to be as big as they've been in any other game this season. Maybe the Cowboys game would be the exception. There, could be a very similar situation to that. But again, Purdy was able to make some plays against the Cowboys. I think he'll be able to make some plays against the Eagles. The last thing I think that they will be able to do is I think they'll be able to run the ball effectively in this one, at least somewhat effectively. And this is what they do so well, right? They move guys out of position. They swing guys over. All of this stuff, making sure that they get as many one-on-one blocks as possible. Look at how when Purdy is going to give the ball to McCaffrey, you have a little window where he can try and get through because everyone is winning their blocks. McCaffrey does get through, and he is able to pick up a big gain on that one. And that's actually, I think, an interesting play for a couple of reasons to set up what's going to happen in the playoff game. The first of which is, 49ers do a great job at getting a guy on everybody, but the flip side is the Eagles have some star defensive linemen. And will you be able to, if you're the Eagles, have a defensive lineman win one of those one-on-one blocks in a big way and maybe get some of these stops like how Dallas was able to do last week? It's absolutely possible. And for a team that will run the ball a decent amount, if you can stop their running game, as we saw with Dallas, you can definitely stop this offense. The flip side, of course, is if they cannot do that, this could be a real concern as you're going to have to put a lot of resources in trying to stop the run, which will make it a lot easier for them to find gaps in coverage, which would be, again, just a not great situation for San Francisco, for Philadelphia, and that's something they definitely have to be concerned about. So, okay, predictions time. The Philadelphia Eagles defensive points per drive on the season is a very good 1.83. The San Francisco offensive points per drive on the season is a very good 2.4. So, my points per drive prediction, I'm going 2.1 in this game. I do think those outside corners will still matter. I do. And I think the Eagles will be able to, at times, stop the run, even if they haven't graded out as consistently well. Typically, the run defense is a weak link sport. It's a little bit different against San Francisco. Sometimes a star can actually matter a lot more in this situation, and that might happen here. Granted, 2.1 points per drive against this Eagles team is still very good. It's kind of splitting the difference a little bit. It's almost exactly in between what these two teams typically do. So that would mean I have them at 23 points in an 11-drive game. Is that enough for them to get the victory? Well, no. Not in my opinion, at least. I have the Eagles winning 25-23. I have this as a 2-point game. I mean, I think this is as close as it gets, really. First time I'm picking against either of these two teams. I, picked the Niners in both of their wins, picked the Eagles in their win. I do think the Eagles are just a little bit better. I think what the Eagles can do offensively, I talked about it on the last video, but if you missed that one, just the A.J. Brown effect, and I think he will win those man coverage opportunities when they're available. I also think that these outside corners will be able to make some plays in this one for Philadelphia. I think that their star talent will be able to at least hold the 49ers offense off enough to narrowly get the victory. But could this one flip the other way? Absolutely. For one thing, if they just don't give up a bomb to A.J. Brown, I would definitely, flip it and have the Niners the favorites in this one. It's that simple. So, make sure you don't do that. Not to mention, if this running game can get consistently going, that might be enough for me to flip it. If you told me guaranteed that's going to happen, then I'd probably flip it to Niners over to Eagles. This feels like a 50-50 game. I'll say 55% Eagles win, 45% Niners win. It should be awesome. I can't wait for this one. I actually think this one's the better game of the two, although I'm more excited for Burrow versus Mahomes just because of the storyline, if that makes sense. But they both should be awesome games for sure. That's what I think. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.